the distance matters, right? What going all in looks like for a sprint is very different than what going all in looks like for a marathon, right? And this passage is written a little bit more like a sprint, right? One and done. Give it all. Go, go, go. Our lives are a lot more like a marathon.
Good to see you people. Nice to be here.
Yeah, on a Sunday, not a Wednesday. Yeah. I don't know where my head went for a second. So some of you, if you came in to the auditorium a little on the early side, maybe you're hanging out on Zoom, you may have seen a question up before the service started. And the question was this, just a little opportunity to kind of reflect for those of you who like to come in and have a little quiet before church starts. The question was, think about a time that you lost something really precious to you. And what made it so meaningful to you? What were you willing to do to get it back? I'll give you just a second. What did you lose? What would you be willing to do? So a few weeks ago, I had an opportunity. It doesn't work out every morning, but some mornings I can walk with my two youngest ones to school. And it's somewhere in between half a mile to a mile, probably closer to a mile, this walk. But on a good morning where we're not in a rush, I just think it can be just one of the best ways to start the day. I love it. So we were walking together, and all of a sudden, one of the kids just burst into tears. I was like, what's going on? And they had just realized I'd been helping carry their backpack, and we were just making the trade. They were going to take it back because we were almost at school. They realized that a special pin that their older sibling, who just went off to college this fall, had given them was not there anymore. They had put it on the backpack, and the pin was gone. And this child, I think it was kind of having, a rough week already, just transitioning into the school year, all that kind of stuff. And so clearly losing this pin was just like a devastating event, right? I mean, it was a big deal. And, as a parent, I'm like, well, I think we have a few possibilities, right? That it's possible. Do you think, that it was lost somewhere else, like maybe at school or at home? But I'm going to walk backwards this mile-long path, right? And so I will keep my eyes out on the way home. And so I will do my best to find your pin for you. And with that, assurance, she was able to move into her school day a little bit more calmly. So now the task is on me, right? That I get to retrace my steps, a mile of sidewalk, and I'm taking it seriously because I really do feel bad for my kid. I know that they've kind of had a tough week. And so I'm trying to remind myself, all sorts of just self-coaching, right? Okay, remember, it could have gotten kicked off the path, because it's a busy area. Other people are walking too. And hey, don't get distracted. You're looking for round, you're looking for shiny, right? It's kind of like when you're doing a crossword puzzle or something, or hidden pictures. You really have to have in your head, what is it I am looking for?
Where's Waldo?
Yeah, don't get distracted, but on the other hand, if you think you see something, take it seriously. Stop, nope, just a piece of trash, just a coin, whatever. And I'm getting a little fuzzy, let me stop. Shut my eyes for a few minutes, right? Now you may wonder, did I find the pin? I did not. A mile. I mean, it took me twice as long as usual walking home, right? And I did not find the pin. I searched the house next. It was not there. And so my last hope, right, was what ended up being true, is that my kid got to school and was greeted by a teacher asking the class, I found a special pin yesterday. Is this anyone's? I know, right? So they had a happy ending to their story. And hey, I got a sermon illustration. So it all works out, right? Everybody wins. Because this is, I think, as we've been talking about hope these last few weeks, that walk home that I had, really just having to try to discipline myself to what am I looking for? What's its shape? What's its texture? What's its color? Size? Stay focused. If I'm going to find this thing, it's going to take work. That's kind of what trying to live in hope feels a lot like these days to me. It's small and shiny, but still kind of hard to see and hard to find, and it's going to take us a lot of work. There's a poet whose work I enjoy, and she puts it like this: everything is on fire, but everyone I love is doing beautiful things and trying to make life worth living. And I know I don't have to believe in everything, but I believe in that. That was by Nikita Gill. Everything is on fire, but everyone I love is doing beautiful things. How do we train our vision to look for the beautiful things? It's not always easy, but that's what we're going to talk about this morning. So our friend, Kelly Barton, who I want you guys to welcome her, but also come on up, Kelly. One reason you should know who Kelly is, and there are plenty of reasons, like she's just a delightful person, but one reason as well would be that she is currently helping to organize our celebration for the arts that is going to be happening in November. And so there is a call out in City Church, and it's being sent to all Wrigley, for artists of all kinds, from musicians, actors, visual artists, and especially as I understand it right now, we're looking for the actors because dramas take a little while to get together and to rehearse.
But visual and performing artists, both. Definitely.
Yeah, all invited. So if you are one of those people, and this doesn't mean you have to be like a professional. It doesn't have to be your day job, people. But this is it's one of the ways that you express the creativity that God has put in you. We would love for you to connect with Kelly and see how you might get involved.
Yeah. And I have a fellow event creator, Danny Campbell. Danny,
Woo-hoo!
raise your hand over there. So you can find either one of us if you want to participate or if you just want to know more about attending, but there'll be lots in the social media and stuff.
So Kelly is going to read our scripture. If you would like to stand and you're willing and able, in honor of the reading of God's word.
Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. Matthew 13, 45 through 46.
People of God, this is the word of God.
Praise be to God.
Thanks, Kelly.
So I really appreciate that story about looking for the pin. And so in this little story that Jesus tells, he's talking about it's a parable. So it's a teaching, but it's not like, well, just do this and everything will turn out like that. It's an imaginative exercise. Mm-hmm. And it's about this merchant who goes looking for really nice pearls and finds this great one. But it's like walking backwards from school looking and trying to stay focused. And finally, I guess you didn't find it, but, having it be found. And as I was thinking about this and our theme this week of hope, what I realized for myself is that this has been a season of real sadness for me. And some of my friends have also been experiencing kind of a season of sadness, feeling like there's been a lot more meanness in the world, a lot more injustice. There have been a lot more things happening nationally and even internationally that demonstrate that goodness doesn't always win. And it's been hard to look for the shiny. Mm-hmm. It seems very small sometimes. I don't know if some of you experience that of late. And I think some of us are maybe more aware of this. Some of us maybe are more in touch with the fact that the world often skews towards injustice. People like me, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm white, and I'm male, and I I have a full-time job currently, and right, so I have all these sort of privileges. So in some ways, I'm sort of insulated from many ups and downs in our world. And so sometimes it takes a little bit more for someone like me to experience like, oh, crud, things are super hard. Mm-hmm. Because I may not notice, because I may not have that empathy naturally. Whereas others, you see that more naturally. You experience it in your daily life and have for years or decades. But I think for all of us, it's a moment of saying, where do we get hope? Mm-hmm. How do we hold on to a vision of something that's better? And there are a couple of folks who talk about this idea that there could be a pearl out there, a great, beautiful, something worth really living for, sacrificing for, spending for. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about the beloved community, was his phrase. Like, what would it look like if people lived in beloved community? And he was, at work in a time when there was great oppression in our country and around the world, working against that. But he had this vision, right? He knew what he was looking for. Lisa Sharon Harper, who we've read a number of her books together as a church, she talks about shalom and her picture of shalom, which is it's a Jewish word. You see it all the time in the scriptures, where it often is translated peace, but it's a more robust peace than just the absence of conflict. She talks about it as an interlocking web of powerful goodness. It's a sense that individually and corporately, intellectually, socially, emotionally, mentally, economically, the community is thriving, and all parts of it are thriving. And this is sort of the vision that has kept a number of folks going. And we get to ask today, like, what's our vision here? What's your vision? What keeps you going? What do you work towards? And this is a simple story, this simple parable of Jesus. And it's meant to really stoke our imaginations and say, can we look for that shiny small thing? Can we keep after it? And what is it that we're really looking for? I was struck this week. I took my daughter to the airport. She's backpacking this weekend with friends up in the Pacific Northwest. And she's been home now for almost a month. She's in between. She's applying to grad school, so she's taking a few months at home before she goes off and is a ski bum in Utah for the winter. But it's been so great having her home. I mean, just so great. And so I drop her off at the airport, and I get out from the car, and I run around, and I give her a big hug, and I'm like, it's so great seeing you. I'm going to miss you terribly this weekend. I mean, and my daughter's like, okay, Dad, right, it's just a weekend. I'm here for 3 months. But she smiles at me, and she says something nice to me, and I'm just so happy, right? Because she's been so happy. It's been so great having her home. And I go back around to the car. And apparently, on my way back around to get in my car, I brushed up against another car. And so the guy in the other car rolls down his window. And he says, "Hey, you touched my car." I'm sad. I'm sorry. And he yells at me again. And I say, I'm sorry. And I get back in my car. And I start driving home, and all I can think about, right? What do you think I'm thinking about? All I'm thinking about is this guy. Like, what is his issue? Like, and I'm like, he needs therapy. I mean, that's obvious. And all these things, right? And I start working through the list, and I'm like, And I'm stuck in traffic, and I've got this, there's this great recording of the New Testament by all these famous actors and actresses, all African-American cast. And so I put it on, and I listened to the book of Philippians. I just like, I need to refocus. And this verse comes up. So this verse comes up from Philippians 4:8 and says, finally, siblings or brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And I found myself, it's like God spoke to me. Sure. Maybe. I don't know how God speaks. I'm still trying to figure this out. Sorry if some of you thought your pastor had it all sorted out. Maybe Brenda does. But maybe it was God. And it was like, look, what are you going to think about? Are you going to spend the rest of your 45-minute drive home from LAX to Long Beach thinking about this guy and his anger? Or are you going to think about that super sweet hug with your daughter? That was, a little extra cheesy on your part, but really sweet on hers. And I found that there actually was a choice there. Right? It's kind of like when you pause and you're like, hold on, what am I looking for? And so about 8 times on the way home, I was like, no. God bless him. Think of those green eyes that looked at me, think about how she put her arms around my shoulder, and it was the best thing. And it helped me hold on to this precious thing, this beautiful thing, this hopeful thing. And it sure has been a picture for me this whole weekend of holding on to hope.
That's so good. It's several years ago now, but I remember we did a sermon series once where we were kind of playing with kind of scripturally, theologically with this this scientist, psychologist who had a really popular class back at Yale about the science of happiness, right? And so we did a sermon series about happiness and kind of playing with some of the scientific data too. And I remember one of the things she said is we are neurologically wired to overemphasize the negative, right? Because it's one of the ways that we try to self-protect. We're scanning for threat, and we're ready to see the threat, and we're not ready to see the kindness, right? It just doesn't excite all of our little neurons the way that a threat does. And so it does take work. It takes discipline to remind ourselves no, that's a cognitive bias I have to want to think about this man's anger, and this primal part of me thinks I still need to run away from him or get ready to fight him, right?
Right.
Instead of no, actually I have a choice. I have a choice, and I can lean into what's noble, what's right, what's pure. I can lean in that direction. I can look in that direction. A friend of mine was telling me a day or two ago, they've kind of been over the last half a year, something like that. They've really backed off on how much news they consume and social media and that sort of thing, just because they just sort of felt like it was an overwhelming flood of negativity and things that would get them upset. And they do a lot of good, hard work in the world, and they just kind of said, hey, I'm going to focus on the good I can do around me, and right now it just doesn't feel like this is helpful. But my friend had heard that there was a government shutdown, that had heard other people talk about it. So he was kind of yeah, maybe I should pop on, and I'll just really quickly see if I can, get a little bit of info about that. And he said he had it open for a minute, and he was like, nope. Right? Because there was so much other stuff, and, just no. That's not necessarily the choice for everyone, right? But for my friend, it was to say, I can't have that over there be my focus and also focus on all the good that I'm trying to do. It's just not working for me right now. So it's a discipline. One of the things that occurred to me as I was reading this I love how parables are. They can be so short and simple sometimes, but they just invite us to ask all sorts of questions. What about this? And what about that? And it struck me that this short little parable just makes it feel very like, it's just very time compressed, right? Like he's looking for the pearl, he finds the pearl, he goes and sells everything, and now he's got the pearl.
It's kind of easy.
Yeah, I mean, is there something that we can do once and maybe it's really hard and then the world's going to be perfect? Sign us up, right? What's the one thing that we can go all do and we all show up on the particular Saturday and then it's all fixed, right? And the world is perfect. It doesn't actually work that way. And so it's a place where I find myself kind of wrestling with the parable to go like, I kind of wish it worked that way, that it could just be like the one time. But instead, it seems like it's more of a long-term project. It's a long-term, here's my next clue towards the pearl, right? Or here's my glimpse of the pearl, but it's gonna take such a long time to see a full, like if I name the pearl is the coming of shalom, shalom in all of its fullness, justice completely restored, everything set right. Well, that's a big project, right? What if there are lots of little pearls, little opportunities that I have in front of me, and I have to make daily choices? What does it mean to be all in on that particular day and chase that pearl? And how do we develop that kind of endurance, that sort of long-term capacity to follow after and to pursue the pearl? One of my favorite chapters in the New Testament, it's in the book of Hebrews, and some people call it like a hall of fame. I think of it maybe like a hall of faith, but it's all these little snippets of people from Old Testament stories in the Hebrew scriptures, and what it looked like for them to be faithful, all the things that they went through, walking faithfully with God. But as the list is played out, the writer of Hebrews points out all of these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They never got that big shiny pearl. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance. It's that long-term story, that long-term picture, right, of we believe it's out there and we get glimpses of it, and maybe along the way, like there's a trail. I wish pearl dust were a thing and it's not. This would work better if it were like gold dust in the story, right? Like we could just kind of follow like a trail of crumbs, but there's a sense of we have to develop our capacity to see even when it's not close. When it's not just looking at the sidewalk right in front of you or sorting through the bin of pearls right in front of you, looking, but it's saying maybe far off in the distance. That's where I have to look. What's leading me forward? What glimmers of beauty and truth and loveliness and excellence and hope that things will be set right could be put in front of me. So I was thinking, for instance, something that gives me hope right now. And maybe it's little, but our church board, we're prepping for a day-long retreat, and a small sub-team has been taking a class on sexual ethics to bring and lead the board in a conversation about sexual ethics, moving beyond just, we've had conversations in the past and are living into our belief, that LGBTQ folks are radically welcomed, fully included, fully embraced in God's kingdom and in our church life. But for all of us, like when it comes down to just like our day-to-day sexual selves and sexual living, that we've still had this sense that there are things people aren't sure if they're allowed to talk about at church, right? Or aren't sure if somebody will be angry at them or something, or will God be angry at me? Or what is life after purity culture for those of us who are raised in that, in evangelicalism? And so this little team has been working on that, and so that we can have a conversation together as a board and, just get more. We like to have awkward conversations here at City Church. We don't want to feel like things are taboo, for us to talk about. And And that feels hopeful to me because it's good, right? It's lovely, it's admirable, and it doesn't actually have anything particularly to do with like some of our current political situation and some of the things that are like the fires all around us. And it's not that those things don't matter, but to say, but we believe that a future is possible beyond the fires. And building into that and having this like vision of, yes, we're going to do what we can over here where there's just feels like there's crisis after crisis. And we're going to hope and we're going to plan and build for a future together as a church. And that feels, just feels really hopeful to me to say, yes, like something is out there. I don't actually know how to tie it in because I just have some random thoughts bouncing around in my head. But, one other quote that a lot of people, this sticks out for them. It's that quote from Martin Luther King Jr., "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice," right? So having this sense of, yes, there's what we do here and now, and it matters deeply, but we have to pair it with that vision of the future and believing that the future bends towards justice.
We're building a little front yard garden at our house, and 2 weeks ago we planted a tree. Right? You don't plant a tree unless you have hope. And it's been a great little picture for me to, like, hey, we're going to work towards a future. So that verse that Brenna just read in Hebrews, it goes on. And but just listen to, so these are folks who didn't get the pearl in their lifetime, right? But listen to how it articulates it. So all these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. It's this idea that they saw something better, right? There's a guy some of us follow who has a saying that it doesn't have to be this way, right? I love his stuff, right?
Andre Henry?
Andre Henry, yeah. He's an activist and trying to remind us it could be different. It could be different. And there's an invitation in this very short 2-line story of Jesus to recognize that if it's going to be different, it's also going to cost something. Right? It's gonna cost you to get the pearl of great price, right? It says that the guy went and sold all that he had to buy that pearl. And this has implications for us, right? What does it look like? And I'm not gonna solve this for you because I haven't solved it for me yet. And again, maybe Brenna's got the answers. But
I wish.
Yeah, but this idea, like there are implications for our time, our vocation, our money, our friendships. These things, they're implications based on what our hope is, what our vision is. And so I was talking to a friend recently who we were laughing how they got crab legs for their partner's birthday. And they went out and they shopped, and it was super expensive, and they cooked these crab legs, had a great dinner, right? And we were laughing, like, when do you buy crab legs? Right? And celebrate, because self-care, and you should celebrate your partner. And like, when do you eat beans and rice? Right? And give the extra money to work being done to provide for, maybe supplies going to Gaza. Right? These sorts of things. Like, how do you calibrate that? It's not a one size fits all, right? Because it's actually very appropriate to care for yourself, to celebrate others. So Ada Maria Isasi Diaz, who's coined the term the kingdom of God, it's like a family of God as opposed to the kingdom of God, which has some sort of patriarchal leanings about the kingship and also kind of militaristic. So Isasi Diaz, she has a whole chapter in her book on Mujerista theology where it's all about fiesta. She has a whole chapter on like how to fiesta well as part of your vision, part of your hope, how to spend money on presents and people and, prizes and food and drink. Like, I haven't figured out like what percent do you spend on this and how much, how many vacations days do you spend protesting versus, going to the beach? Like, I don't know. But this is a question that we get to ask. And my hope is, and I think this is why Jesus tells these stories, is so we'll talk about them with each other. We'll think about them. We'll ask the question, well, what do you think is your best contribution right now? Or, man, sounds like you really need to care for yourself. How can we help care for you? These are the questions that we're invited into, that Jesus is inviting us into by telling us these stories, to sell it all. It would be simple if it was, one time, knock it out, but it's not, right? It's not. It's this ongoing journey towards a hopeful future, recognizing that right now, things are not the way they're supposed to be. And so that's, there's just a lot of questions here, but I think they're the right questions. They're good questions.
And as we were talking before the service, this is a passage that, as I've heard it, or even my teenager asked me earlier this week what the sermon was going to be about. I told him, it's the parable, the pearl of great price. And I could see him kind of spinning like, do I know that one? And he did. He was very proud. And he was like, oh yeah, that's the one where it's like, it's basically saying, right, like, just like, God's worth it and you should just give everything up for God. And I was like, you've got the right story, right? But that is often how it's taught and interpreted, right? It's this sort of like, go all in. God's worth it. And that could be kind of shaming, or it could be manipulative. Sometimes, maybe some of you have had that. Those sorts of verses used like that with you, just like, so are you willing to pay the price? Well, then we have an offering plate for you. Are you willing to pay the price? Sign up for this team. Go on this missions trip, right? Show up here. It can just get really heavy-handed. And so as we were talking this morning, I just had this sort of, some of it maybe being because I'm trying to turn myself into a little bit of a runner. It's going very slowly. But in looks like for a sprint is very different than what going all in looks like for a marathon, right? And this passage is written a little bit more like a sprint, right? One and done. Give it all. Go, go, go. Our lives are a lot more like a marathon, right? And there's a lot more just kind of pacing as you go and self-talk and trying to figure out, okay, in this particular leg of the race, what have I got to give? And how is it going to set me up for the next leg of the race, right? So all in looks different depending on the moment you find yourself in.
Shout out to Omar Lopez, who's running the Long Beach Marathon right now.
Awesome.
And
Yay, Omar.
he'll catch this on Zoom at some point, but anyone else who's running it, go team.
Yeah, it's a good day to think about marathons. We have the privilege of hearing from someone, not me and Bill, this morning, as we so often love to do. But our friend and leader, Diani Spinella, is going to come up and let me ask her a few questions. Would you welcome Diani? There you go.
Yes.
Do you want to hold the microphone or have it here?
I'll just have it here.
Okay. There you go.
you.
Yes.
Good morning.
Diani, for people who haven't had a chance to meet you yet, maybe you could tell them just a little bit, like, how long you've been at City Church and what you do in your role with us as Neighborhood Connections Coordinator.
Okay. So I've been with City Church since 2021, and it's just a lot of things, right? So as a community outreach coordinator, reaching out to neighbors in need, or waiting for them to reach out to me, connecting with different organizations, with schools, how we can help them, spreading the word on certain resources. And then we also do fun things for the community. Like we have a
Pie contest.
we have a big pie contest every year, gamers event. So it's very joyful too. Yes.
So some of your recent things, I was thinking your partnership with Lafayette Elementary at the beginning of the year. Could you remind us, like, how many backpacks?
About 500.
500
Yes.
backpacks for the
Thank
kids
you.
here.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That was incredible. And we also, there's a house that we're able to participate with for families who are sort of getting back on their feet and stabilized and being able to transition from an unhoused state to a more stable housed.
Yes. We lovingly call it the community house. It houses 3 families at a time. And we just try to step up for them. Right now, we just help. I know the church right now helped recently with getting the kids ready for back to school. So they give us a list. We put in a quick Amazon wish list, and we were able to gather everything on the list. And so thank you very much for that. The family was very grateful for that help.
Yeah, yeah. So Diani is just a natural connector and somebody who has been such a great liaison for us as a church with the surrounding neighborhood. Just a voice and a face that people just instinctively, I think, know that they can trust and work with. So we've appreciated that. And Diani, this is just kind of the stuff that you do. Like even before you came to work, like officially with the church, you'd reached out to Bill just because there had been a shooting in your neighborhood, and you were like, hey, I think there's this like crazy pastor guy who I hear that, I see on like Facebook, like in the neighborhood, maybe he'll help me organize a candlelight vigil, right? Like a prayer vigil for the family. Like this is, so tell about, like you have something going on in your garage right now that is just you. What is that effort?
Oh, well, it's not going on anymore, but
Okay.
I did pass it on to somebody
passed
that
it
can
off.
take
Okay.
it on. Yes, because it got a little crazy.
So
Even
you did
better,
the startup.
though.
Yes.
Even
That's
better. I
even
love
better.
that.
Share the
Yes.
joy.
So it's called Little Clothes, Big Impact, and pretty. I work with a lot of close families with young kids in the community, and there's something that bothers me about picking up donations in a black, pathetic bag. It just comes across very inhumane in a way. And so I wanted the kids and the parents to be excited about it. So I had this empty garage at the time that I wanted to turn into a mini store, a free store. And so that way parents could come and actually get that little luxury of browsing what you want. And kids outgrow clothing so much that some even had tags on it. And so it was very nice for parents, for families to come and browse through our little store and take whatever they wanted, whatever they needed in a very dignified way. The kids actually felt like shopping. Some people gave us toys, so the kids got to walk away with new toys. And it was, very nice.
I love that. And I love that you were able to pass it on to somebody who could keep it going.
Yes, even close right here in Wrigley.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
So this is going to sound like kind of like a broad question. And so I'm going to ask the broad question and then the like more specific version of it. So I was just thinking for you, with all this work that you do in the community and for your neighbors, like if you had to define what the pearl was for you, like what is that thing that you're looking for that kind of pulls you forward? Like what would that be? But understanding that's a really broad question, then the kind of more specific version of it would be, is there a moment that kind of encapsulated it for you, like a story or an interaction that you had with someone where you're just like, yes, this is why I do this. Like I'm experiencing the pearl in some way.
I thought about this one a lot. And so I got to share a small story to give context. Back in 2008, I was just starting out college. All I was worried about was partying. And I need to make sure I have a nap in between my classes. That was my life at the time. And then the recession hit the country, right? And I thought, I'm fine. Just so selfish, I'm fine. And I think 2-3 months later, we had lost absolutely everything.
Your family?
Everything. And so I left college. I came home to try to look for a job to help my mom and dad. And so it was my dad, my mom, myself, and our 2 dogs living out of a car. And I remember we started reaching out to people that we had spent time with when times were good, right? And I'll never forget, we went to this lady that they didn't really grow up together due to like family stuff, but my dad had a half sister. And she was, her and her husband were pastors. And I thought that's a safe place to go to. And I know they have an empty basement. Maybe they can just let us crash for a week while we plan things. And I remember, till this day, she's probably one of the nastiest persons I've ever met. And I remember she looked at my dad and said, she took out the resentment she had on my dad's father, on my dad. And she said, my father never did anything for me. Why should I do something like that for you? Why do I need to care about you? And then she said this statement. She said, life was hard for me, and so it should be hard for you. Why should I make it easier? And I remember listening to that statement and thinking, how does that make sense? How do you consciously say, because I went through this, even though I know how hard it is, how much it hurts, I will purposely impose it on you too.
It's the anti-pearl.
Yeah. And so the pearl for me, I remember when I heard that, I couldn't believe that a pastor would say this. And I remember just being so in shock and thinking, you know what? Yeah, like life sucks right now, but it's going to get better. I know it is. And I'm not going to let this moment harden me. And I'm going to do everything all these people that refused to help us didn't do. And so kind of like the purpose of grabbing that pain and turning it into something healing for me. And so the pearl for me is that not only am I helping people through this job, but they're also helping me because I'm healing that part of my life where it's like, yes, like so many years later, and you know, like I didn't get hardened. Like I'm still trying to help out and healing. So it's been, the pearl to me has been that on top of helping, I get to heal myself from such a, probably the lowest time in my life so far.
I love that, because what I'm hearing in your story is that there's just something in you that was so clearly just ugly and wrong, that instead of sort of like joining in it and returning it, which is what she was doing, right? Is that everything in your soul said, no, I'm going in the opposite direction. Like, I know that is not it, so I'm going to go as hard as I can away from that. And wow.
Yeah, it was really gross.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
For sure.
So it's hard though sometimes, right? Like to extend yourself the way that you do. And so I'm just curious, like where Bill was talking about like the cost, right? The cost of putting yourself out there, of trying to lean in towards and build the good and heal the hurts, not only for others, but for yourself. Like, what does the cost look like for you, and how do you practice self-care? Like, how do you stay in it for the long term? And it's okay if it's like, an unfinished answer, or if it's like, I'm still figuring that out.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy. I've always been highly sensitive as a kid, like crying for everything. So it's heavy listening to people's issues. And sometimes we can't help them, like the church, just decides to pass on because we consider each request, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's so hard for me to go back and be like, sorry, no. That's really hard for me. Mm-hmm. But it's been good practice. I try to not let people walk away with just the plain no. I give them resources. Mm-hmm. Like, no, we can't, but call here. Mm-hmm. But I'm just learning that I'm also not God. I can't fix people's life. I'm not a savior. Like I do what I can. And I think with self-love, especially this year, I've been focusing on really unapologetically just do whatever I want that I think it's gonna be fun. Like Matt and I have this, Matt's my husband. So sometimes I feel like we're too attached to each other, too codependent. And this year, I was just on TikTok and looking like a Bad Bunny's concert stuff. And I really love that it's like Latino pride. And so I said, there's no way he's going to dance at this concert. Like, he's not going to be the best person to go with. And he's not Latino. He's not going to get it. And so I messaged my sister and I said, hey, you want to go down to Puerto Rico in 3 weeks? And she said yes, and we just left. And I've never done a decision like that. And I had a blast. I did. And, you know, we ended up hiking mountains, swimming in a river, dancing with Bud Bunny, making friends. It was so much fun. And I'm glad I did it. I feel guilty at first, but then I'm like, no, it's okay. I can be selfish. This is self-care.
Yeah. You end up asking this question, is this selfish or is it self-care?
Self-care.
Yeah, it's self-care. It's self-care.
So
and so you all heard, if Diani gets to like take those moments to recharge, you too go out and do the good you can in the world, and then think also about what you need to continue it for the long term, right?
Bad Bunny,
Yes.
for the Lord.
It was fun.
Anything else you would like these people to know or to encourage them with that I didn't ask you?
A lot of times people that need help, they won't ask due to pride, embarrassment, or they're so used to being rejected. So stay aware of your surroundings. Don't wait for people to come to you. A lot of the people that I've been able to help through City Church, I actually have to check in, like, hey, how are you? How are things going? Anything you need? Even for the back to school drive that we did, none of the parents reached out. I had to say, hey, do you want to give me something to put on the list for your kids? Is there anything they're still pending? So, or even if you come across resources that perhaps don't apply to you, still pass them on and encourage people to pass them on, because eventually it's going to reach people that it will benefit. So yes, just sharing is knowledge. Share as much as you can, no matter how irrelevant you think it is, because it's going to eventually reach somebody that it helps.
Great.
So yeah, just staying very attentive of your surroundings. Don't wait for people to ask, because a lot of the times they won't.
I love that. Thank you, Diani. Was there anything you wanted to ask me and Bill?
I did. I have it here.
For those who are new, we always give the people we interview a chance to ask something of us, which is awful.
Just because
do
we
it.
don't have time to prepare.
So we work together, but I never really have a chance to ask personal questions, right? So okay, this one's for Bill.
There's one for
get
you.
separate
And
ones.
we'll go with you, yeah. They're
Okay.
similar.
Okay.
So for Bill, it is, what inspired you to start City Church, and what's kept you going all these years?
Oh, wow.
And for Brenna, it would be, what drew you to this work, specifically City Church, and how has it shaped your view of community?
I love that.
Wow.
Thank you.
So City Church, we started in 2012, and partly, I was at a big box conservative evangelical church full of lovely people where I couldn't be myself. And some other friends were like, hey, there's probably a different way to do church, and what if we tried that? And so I think that's kind of where it started. I don't know. And what's kept me going? Having a co-pastor. There was one year when I didn't have a co-pastor, and that was the year where City Church grew. You know, I like to say it takes a bad pastor to grow a church in half, and I grew City Church into a third. Right? So we were so it was like 150 people a week, and I grew it all the way down to 50 people a week in 1 year. Right? By myself. So
There were many things going on that year. For me, how did I end up at City Church? Kind of what
drew you to City
drew
Church?
me? Yes. So I was not here when City Church began, like every Sunday, but I was actually involved. I was at another church, and so Bill and his co-pastor Jason at the time actually came to that church for support financially and otherwise, and that was kind of my job. That was my role. So I got on like the email list and other connections with Bill and Jason, and in that role, I got lots of like emails and updates from all of these different kind of missional partners that the church had. And generally speaking, they were so boring. I just have to admit it. Like it was just kind of, it felt really formulaic, and really just kind of like, I know. This is what I was in a role where I had to do that before too. This is just, you're keeping the money flowing in. I get it, right? But the prayer updates that Bill and Jason, I think primarily Bill, would send were so just raw and funny. And it just felt real. Like I just kind of felt like, oh my gosh, God is doing something completely just different there. That feels so much more refreshing. And so when I had the opportunity of basically getting fired from that job.
For being a woman?
For basically, and a little loud. I was like, well, of course, that's where I'm going, right? At least for a healing kind of period. And eventually everything that I felt in those letters of like, okay, we're not just kind of playing church, and everybody's welcome. And we always say that, right? But no, we're going to live into it here, and we're going to have the awkward conversations. And that was what I came for. And then how has it shaped my view of community? I think it just affirmed a lot of what I had always sort of felt, because so many of the churches that I had been in were so sort of hierarchical and top down, and that sort of like the great big leader at top, and just a lot of control. And so I just love how much City Church takes the shape of its people. Like, you guys decide in so many ways what City Church is going to be like and what we talk about. And so I think just that sense of it really is about, like, we're not just saying it's about the people, but it really is about the people and what everyone chooses to bring, and how do we don't do it perfectly by any stretch, but how can we try and release and support the whole community.
That's why I'm here.
Thank you, Deani.
Thank you, Brianna.
Thank you.